Hi, John here. I recently made a commitment to the members of Bottled Up that I would do a video series talking about recovery, my recovery, and probably talking in more general terms about what recovery is, what it means, what it entails, how you do it. And this is the first video of that series. But this one's actually a bit different from most of them. Because what I want to do in this one is something which I've done before on paper, but I've never actually done on camera. And that's, I want to apologise. I want to say sorry for many of the things that I did when I was drinking. One of the things about starting to look at recovery is that we start to look at what we're actually recovering from. You can't actually recover from anything unless you know what you're recovering from. And for me, what that means is I need to know what the problem was at that time. I had to look and say, this is the problem. And also, what did it entail? What were the consequences in my life? And when I look at some of those consequences, some of the things that I did, some of the behaviours, then I have to say I'm deeply ashamed. I'm deeply ashamed of some of the things that I did. I'm deeply ashamed of the person that I became. And I'm deeply ashamed of the hurt that I did to other people. I consider myself, and did even at that time, I considered myself a good man. You can fill in whatever you believe that actually means, but I considered myself I was a good man. I wasn't a bad man. I wasn't a thief. I wasn't a liar. I wasn't a violent man. I wasn't somebody who had affairs. That's what I believed. But when I took alcohol, it was different. I'm not saying I was a violent drunk, but I scared my wife. And yes, I'm not proud of it, but I pinned her up against the wall and I terrified her. I was very vocally aggressive, vocally violent. And I look back now and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of that. I can turn around now and say, well, that wasn't me. It was me. I was the person who chose to take that drink, and therefore I behaved in that way. I used to say, well, I didn't have affairs. I did. Up here, I had many, many affairs. Most women had the good sense not to take me up on it. Most women had the good sense to avoid me, because it tended to be when I was drunk I wanted to have the affairs. I wanted to sleep with other women. Other women just didn't want to sleep with me. My head was a cesspit, you know, and I'm ashamed of that. I used to think I was a good provider, that I brought money into the house, but I spent money as quickly as I brought it in. Quicker sometimes. And at the end of my drinking, we were heavily in debt. I bounced checks in bars, I bounced checks wherever I could. Anywhere I could to get money. And I stole money. I stole money from the household. I stole money from our stash of money. I stole money from her purse. I stole money wherever I could because I needed it to feed the habit. And I have to say, I look back in that and I'm ashamed. I am ashamed. Now, these are some of the big things that I'm ashamed about. These are the big betrayals, the violence, etc. But there's the small betrayals. The betrayals that happened on a daily basis. The lies that trust that is eroded through alcoholism. And I did. I lied. I lied and I lied and I lied. I didn't lie about everything, but I did lie about alcohol. I lied about how much I drank. I lied about whether I had drank. I lied to go for a drink. I lied about the money. I lied. I lied a lot. And I could stand there and look my wife in the face and tell her a barefaced lie. Most of the time she didn't believe it, but I expected her to. And for the erosion of that trust, I'm ashamed. And then there are the promises. The promises that I made on a regular basis. I promise I won't drink again, and I drank. The promise to be home at a certain time, and I wasn't. The promise that this week I'll take her out, and I didn't. The promise that, you name it. I made many, many promises. I promised to clean the house. I promised to fix the things that were wrong with the house, and I never did. I'd find money and I would go drinking. So my promises were worth nothing. And that again betrayed the trust. And when I got sober, I expected her to trust me, and she didn't. And who would blame her? Because I lied and I cheated. And I did all of that. And for that, I'm ashamed. And sometimes it's these small betrayals that are the most insidious, but also the most severe. The big ones tend to happen from time to time. The small ones happen all the time. And they just erode the trust. They erode the relationship. They just wear it away. So finally my wife turned round and she said to me, as she was walking out the door, I don't love you anymore. I don't like you anymore. And I'm leaving before I hate you. And at the time I thought it was harsh, but I look back on it now, and if I had been in her position, I don't think I could have stayed nearly as long as she did. I don't think I could have coped with me, and I don't think I would have wanted to cope with me. The person I was at that time was, as I say, a liar, a cheat, a drunk, violent, angry, aggressive. Most of all, selfish. Very, very selfish. And if you're out there and watching this, and you're probably watching it wondering what to do with the drunk in your life, then I apologise to you. I apologise on behalf of drunks everywhere. I apologise for the alcoholics, because it's the family that get hurt more than anyone else. And that's why with my wife and myself we started Bottled Up, because we want to put something back in. We want to make amends. We want to help the people who suffer this on a daily basis. My wife suffered it for 29 years. Not my first wife divorced me. My current wife also lived with an alcoholic. That's Lou, who's part of the Bottled Up. So she knows what this is like. She knows the day-to-day hurt, the day-to-day lies, the day-to-day lack of trust, the day-to-day pain that goes with living with an alcoholic. She knows all of that. And when we talk sometimes about, the past, we don't do it very often because we live in the present. We live in this time. This is not because we've forgotten the past. Far from it. Far from it. I used to say that I got sober to save my life, and I did. I was given 6 months to live. So I got sober to save my life, but I stay sober to have a life. And we've got a good life. And that's why I don't dwell on the past too much. But I don't ever want to forget it. I don't ever want to forget what it was like, and more to the point, what I was like. Because the person I was at that time, that was part of what got me sober. When I looked in the mirror and I couldn't stand the person that was looking back at me. I hated that person. I hated him with a vengeance. So my only chance was to change. I didn't change just because I was told I was dying. I changed because I'd already died inside. That was the real thing that kicked me into sobriety, was my abhorrence of this person in the mirror, this person that I had become, you know, and the hurt that I caused all around about me. So I just say to all of you who are watching this, I am truly sorry for what I did, for the pain that I caused, for the suffering that I gave out. I'm truly sorry for all of that. And I'm truly sorry if you're being hurt by another alcoholic. I'm sorry.